So, welcome, Teresa, today on National Stress Awareness Day. Uh, Thank you for coming into my little group to chat. Apologies, it's not live, but for some reason I can't do that anymore. But welcome. Tell us about you. Where are you? Where are you come from, and everything that is relevant to how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, I'm Teresa and I live in Devon. I'm on a farm in Devon. And we were just talking, actually, I was farmhand this morning. I've used that term really loosely. I'm literally just the gopher. But yeah, so I was farmhand this morning. I live on a farm in Devon. I'm a mum. I've got three daughters. Two are adults. One's a 16-year-old, and I'm a granny to two. So that sort of is rather fabulous. I'm an ex-nursery teacher. I was a nursery lead in a Devon, like a local primary school, and I gave that up last year to go with my business now, no pencil required, full time. So I'm an educational trauma-informed coach and trainer. So what I do is I support to help understand children's behaviours and their mental health and well-being and how it can impact on their learning and life success. So I just help to support stuff because my mission is to not have children understood and to reach as many children as I can in the UK. And to do that, I think, is to support the teachers, to help them to recognise what's going on when they're so busy. They're so busy without adding to the overwhelm. So that's what it is.
Fabulous. So, how did you get into that work?
I didn't know, no pencil required didn't really exist until 2021. I didn't know that it was anything because I didn't seek this journey out. I just found myself on it.
Okay.
So I was, like I say, I was doing my nursery teaching, and what happened was I developed my pedagogy with regards to my teaching because I was part of a sort of an early years unit, and I'd taken part in this PE class that the reception children had gone, and I thought I was I sort of felt myself quite a good teacher. Yeah, I thought I was quite good at my stuff until I saw some of these children that I thought actually I'd prepared sort of with physical development. And we're talking sort of elements of sort of natural progression development. I thought I'd really brought them on well until I saw them in this PE lesson, and I realized actually how much I didn't know. And I was mortified, absolutely mortified, that I hadn't prepared these children as well as I thought I had. So I really started to look into it, and I just sort of started to explore really the sort of physicality with regards to learning, physical development, PE, all that sort of stuff. And I ended up creating my pedagogy based on that. It was really holistic. I tried all of the things at first, because when you find out there's something that you don't know, you look at everything and you can get overwhelmed, can't you? You can find that in life, really. I think when you want to find out something, you go down a rabbit hole. And I got a bit messy for a while because I was trying to find all of the things and do all of the things. It was really sort of disjointed. And then I just realized, actually, everything I've got is right here. I don't need anything extra. Everything I've got is within me and these children. So I just started to develop their autonomy. I just started to engage them. I mean, not that I wasn't doing that really, but I really sort of honed in on that, and we became really holistic. Really, they were involved in everything. The whole classroom was set up for them. There was nowhere off limits in my classroom. It was all theirs. Even if they wanted to use my computer, they could ask me and they could sit up. Do you know, it was very much their room. But I just started to develop on their autonomy, including what was going on. When we were doing things, I had specific activities. We would be we'd start a mantra every morning. We were like, we are muscle makers, strong body and brain creators. And we do this sort of routine of a morning. And everything I found that I needed to see sort of from a teacher point of view, I could get from the minute they walked through the door of a morning through this routine, and then we do something together on the carpet to sort of come together and say hello. And I was able to get so much knowledge from this. And it was brilliant because the rest of the time they had a lot of free play. So these children knew that they were muscle makers, and they knew that they were building their bodies and brains and how it was working, to the point that even parents were coming in because they were saying things that they were doing at home, and they would go, oh yeah, that's because I'm a muscle maker. I'm building my body and brain. And they were showing their parents the things that they were having, and they would do things and they go, yeah, but this is building up on such and such part of me, and this is doing such and such part of me. And I was telling them what was happening to their bodies in order for them to get involved. And it was going to be as good as they wanted it to be, however much they wanted to get involved in it. So they really did have ownership and responsibility for themselves. And it was just lovely. And it didn't have a name. It was just what we did. It was, it was just beautiful, and it worked well with my colleagues, and we were thriving. It was great. And then I went into, I don't know if you've heard of Lisa Johnson. She had a race to recurring revenue challenge on Facebook. I'd never been involved in anything like that at all. And I just thought, I'm going to go and have a look and see what this is, because it kept popping up. Well, there you go. That's where No Pants Are Required came from, because it was go on with something that you do. What do you do that you can do well and that you can sort of create something from? And I thought, well, actually, I'm a nursery teacher. What do? Well, I get children ready for lifelong learning and success, but with no pencil required, because they don't need, there's so much academic pressure in children in schools. And a lot of the stuff that children need don't require them to be able to pick up a pencil. I've got nothing against pencils at all. I absolutely love them. And I think they're really important. Of course they are. We have them all the time. But everything a child needs to become successful in their future life is right there with them, and they don't need a pencil, which is where No Pencil Required, the name, came from. And then it just sort of went from there. I created a group, which I've subsequently closed, funnily enough. And then sort of built the website, and I've become a CPD accredited business. I've created 2 signature programs, and now I've got a small membership where I support early year leaders. But I've now, instead of being earlier based, which is what I was initially, I've now gone into primary education. So I go from 3 to 11 and support children all the way through. But I've got now more of a trauma-informed approach, because just building on that sense of autonomy and helping children recognizing what's going on inside them, with so many children coming from dysregulated backgrounds and struggling, not even that, but even children struggling in schools, and they feel that there's, the problem is them. The whole program is actually created to help them recognize that they're not broken. It isn't them. This is what's happening in their body. This is how it's presenting, and this is what they can do. So again, they have the autonomy. They can develop that recognition, that self-awareness, and they can take charge of what's going on with them within whatever scenarios that they've got going on, and gives them the language to articulate it so that they can speak to their adults and their teachers, so that they can then say, this is how I'm feeling. And it goes a bit beyond feeling a bit happy or sad. It just goes from there. So that's what I do.
Yeah. Can I just say, when you were talking about them coming into the room and just talking about their muscles being strong, etc., I just got this real sensation down my body, down my spine, a sort of shiverers of, and then a real sense of just elation. Really, it was just beautiful. I felt really quite teary and emotional, because it just felt really joyful. I always tend to get quite teary when I'm joyful, because it feels such a wonderful way to start people on with the journey, which I'm all in favor of, is to emote, to feel, to understand, and to be really understanding that we are the owners of our bodies, and we Absolutely. Are the owners of our emotions. We are, all of those things. And if we can really engage with that from a young age and get kids to understand, what a wonderful, beautiful, bright future we potentially have.
Well, this is it. And that's why I think if I go into little classrooms, every classroom, if the adult takes that responsibility on, it's a ripple. And if you get enough classrooms, you've got a wave, and then waves crash, don't they? So you end up with this sort of momentum that sort of just drives these children forward. And if we want children, because there is the education, I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole of the education system, but it is a bit archaic, and it's not created to suit our children's needs. And the teachers who work it, who are amazing, they really are amazing, they know that, but they're stuck because they've got pressures, and it's such an overwhelming environment. And that sort of comes down, so it comes sort of top down all the way down through to pressure on the children. But if you were to celebrate and come up from the child, they would give you so much, and they would be, everything would thrive. It just seems a little bit back to front to me. And with teachers, everything that I do complements every situation that they're in, every teaching style, because you don't have to plan for it. You don't have to laminate anything. You don't have to print anything. I call it using their No Pencil Required lens and seeing the wow behind the ordinary. So whatever comes in front, I just help them unpick what's going on behind, and then they can see the wow that is there, which is obviously the child, and then that's where you get them, and you come in with the right support because you understand why they're presenting the way they present, and then you build up on that relationship and that connection, and you work on and you follow that through. So sounds very twee, doesn't it? I haven't got a magic wand and it's not as easy as
No,
just that, but it makes a difference. I know it makes a difference.
Already I can think of two people that I would like to introduce you to, one of whom is Gordon Jessamine, who runs a whole group of nursery schools in London. And another is Governor at a local school near to me, who's all in favour of education and so I will definitely put forward those contacts to you because I feel it feels exciting. It feels wonderful. So,
it is exciting. And when I talk about it, because when you're doing the everyday stuff and you're just doing the do, you don't really, you just get caught up in that, doesn't it? And it's only when I start talking like to people like yourself and you think, oh, I get that pang again because I'm not in the classroom anymore. I'm not with the children anymore. So I really miss that. I'm not there every day because that was just joy. They were just fantastic. We had such a good time. We really did have a good time. And I loved where I was. I'm not saying I left a school that I didn't love. I loved where I was. Right. Amazing families and it was brilliant. But it's definitely something that makes me feel good.
Yeah. So do you still go into schools then and or are you now working directly with the teachers, etc.?
I can work with teachers. I do have, it's called Neuro-Navigators, my school program. So I can help support staff so they understand what they're seeing. But I can also, it goes from the sort of key early years then, nursery to reception. They are the brain buds. And so I have interactive activities that I can do with them, and I've got puppets as well. And then I've got the Brain Builders Club, which is Key Stage 1, and that is just the next level up, just helping children recognize what's going on. And again, it's really interactive. And then Key Stage 2, it's the thought transformers. So they're a little bit older, and obviously they would miss being in the younger age, so you don't know what experiences they've had, so they've had to come through whatever it is that they bring, because every child brings a story with them. It's just making sure that you appreciate that when they come through the door. And we do. It's not that people don't do that, but sometimes you can get caught up in the busy that you forget those things, and that's why they are reacting as they are, or not really understand how to sort of negotiate that. But I think if you can do that and include, because we all do it to an extent, we do to children an awful lot rather than with. So I think if you do with children, they respect that. If you respect them enough to be able to take that on board, if I can do it with 3-year-olds, tiny tackers who were, really responsible for what was going on and could really start to acknowledge what was happening, and it helps them to negotiate and interact with everybody else and sort of compromise. It builds upon all those really important skills. So I think if you give them the respect, actually, I'm going to give you this to be able to work this through and understand what's going in your body and your brain. It just gives them the tools that they need to navigate throughout life. Even if it doesn't work 100%, they've got something there. It's there, and then as they get older, they understand the perceptions are alter, and that little nugget that you've sort of planted then evolves with them. It's just I think it'll be quite nice. So I can do in school as well.
Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I'm very excited by it, and I think it's just I can see you're passionate about it as well. And I wonder then, how was it for you growing up? What was your childhood like?
Well, I was a service family child, actually. So we moved around an awful lot when I was little. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you got settled in one place and you had your friendships, then you were up and off again. And actually, I was really quite shy, but I felt like I had to put on a front every time I went somewhere, because otherwise I wouldn't have anyone to talk to. I would just been a bit of a recluse. So it was quite challenging for me going to different situations. But now, on the back of that, now I can go into a room and I don't like to see somebody who doesn't have somebody to talk to, because I know what that feels like. So I am now the person that makes sure that they do have somebody to talk to if they want to, you know. So my husband calls me Forrest Gump because even at a bus stop I can make friends. So.
Brilliant. I love that. And so I guess where do you see yourself heading then for the future?
Oh, do you know, I've got so many dreams. I've got so many dreams. I've got 2 children's books. One is sort of bashed out. One I know is all but there, and I know would be an amazing CBeebies TV program. It makes me go, oh, I love this. Do you know? So I think other people would feel the same. And that's not me just sort of bigging it up. I really do think people would go,
I was talking about it yesterday
so
actually with my client. It is funny how your children's shows you remember for the rest of your life, don't you? So they are quite informative.
So I've got that, and I've just created, well, I haven't created them, the idea I have, and they're called the I'll Be There Bears. They're on my website, and those are bears who help children. Well, they're called the Guardians of Your Heart. So there's supersofties, and there's 5 of them, and each one of them has a name that means protector or guardian. And these bears come to families or even school settings in kit form. So you create the bear yourself and develop your story. But what they do is that they help children through difficult transitions, whether parents or families are going through separation or loss or deployment, or if they're going into hospital, that sort of thing. And you create this friend. So when the adult can't be with them all the time, then they've got this transitional teddy that's going to be there to look after them. And they come with a recorder so that you can record a message. So when you can't be with them, then you can have that recorded message to reassure them at that time when they need it. So they're called the I'll Be There Bears. Like I said, there's 5 of them. There's the bear, there's an elephant, there's a monkey, a dragon, and a unicorn. And so those are really lovely, and they come with a video from me. So within school settings, they help to create the sense of community that I had in my class. We didn't have an I'll Be There Bear. We did have a bear, but we didn't have an I'll Be There Bear. But you just create that. If you want that, you've got to model it, you've got to introduce it, you've got to celebrate it, you've got to show them what that is and include them in it. You can't just expect them to come in and know how to be part of a group of strangers and expect to get along and follow all the rules and follow all the learning and all that malarkey. So the bear is a really nice transitional toy, and it helps to create that sense of community and togetherness and connection. And sometimes having an object is really nice for children to relate to rather than a person. So it's quite a nice way to sort of bridge the gap. And for parents, when children are experiencing different things, it's really difficult, especially if parents are going through difficult times as well. They're trying to look after themselves, and then you've got children who are, when you look on the outside and you know that they're going through stressful times, but they're acting out, is how do you deal with that? What do you do? So there's an expert video from me for parents to help reassure them that there's nothing bad. It's not, nobody's doing anything wrong, and just help guide them through what is a difficult time for everybody. So so there's those as well. But and I've got other ideas.
Fabulous. Good. You're just going to take over the world.
Oh, that'd be nice. No pens are required everywhere.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. When I ask people to come to this, to come and have a chat, I always send a little message to say, the reason why I do this is because when my father died of cancer, I wasn't really fully emotionally emoting in the way that I probably should have done, and became very unwell. And so my business is about helping people to emote, but also to relax with the various complementary therapies I do, and I do a daily online meditation. And as part of that process, I do these chats because I wanted to give people an opportunity to speak whatever it is that they wanted to share, to connect people. I love the whole concept of community and people supporting and encourage. I love to support and encourage everybody that it fills my heart when I can help support others. And so I ask people when they come to this chat, the very simple question that I ask everybody, and we all ask each other on a regular basis, and very rarely do we answer with an honest reply, because we have a standard response more often than not, and I think you can guess what the question is, but I'm just giving you space here in this moment to be authentically you, and to, if you would like to, share how are you in this moment and how are you feeling?
Right now, I would say I'm in quite a good place. It's been quite foggy for the last couple of months, I'll be really honest, because I've been sort of transitioning with regards to no pencil required, and I didn't know sort of where I was going to go with it. I knew what I wanted from it, but I didn't know how I was going to take it forward, which is why I ended up shutting down my group of almost 3,000 people, because I just knew that actually that wasn't serving me. I knew that wasn't right. And that was quite a big deal. So I've been in a bit of a fog, if I'm perfectly honest. And actually, when you're doing this like this and you're setting off on your own, it can be bloody lonely at times, and you can feel a bit isolated, because how fantastic and supportive everybody else is in the family. They don't get it, because they don't know what's going on. They don't know, they just go, oh, here she goes with another idea. Because there is another idea. But and they don't appreciating the fact that actually takes time to fit that in, because it's all a bit of a jigsaw. So it's waiting for the pieces to slot together. So it's making sure that actually you don't lose sight of that, but actually don't lose sight of yourself in amongst all of that as well. So as part of the new training that I'm doing, which is somatic trauma-informed training that I'm doing, there's a lot of healing within that as well, which can sort of leave you on your bum a couple of times, and make you sort of really reflect. But at the same time, I feel quite privileged to be in that position to do that. So that's quite a nice journey. Does that make sense? Not nice in the sense that you're going through the things, but it's nice in the sense that you're going through the things. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's been part of it as well. But I think for now, where I am today, right now, I'm in the brightest spot that I've been, I'd say, for the past few months, and possibly the last sort of maybe 5 months. I'd say that this is the brightest I've been, with real clarity as to where I'm going next. Yeah, which is great.
That's brilliant. Good. And so what is yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for being authentically honest about it as well, because I think most people's response normally is, yeah, I'm fine, thanks, to that question. When you talk about this somatic course, what is it that you're doing?
Well, it's with the School of, I've got it written down, so it's quite a long title. It's with the School of Trauma-Informed Positive Psychology. It's a lady called Caroline Strawson, and it is the world's first qualified trauma-informed coaching certification. So it's CMI level, it's level 7, so it's master's degree equivalent. So it's quite a lot of work. And it's a somatic trauma-informed coaching and leadership qualification. And I was really drawn to it because of how I have been, and I think it's how I've managed to get the clarity, to be honest, because it sort of presented things. I'm a bit aware of that now. Things present itself. They're not coincidental. They just present themselves when they're ready to, aren't they? So I've been walking through a lot of doors that I never realized I was ever going to walk through. And this was one of them. And I thought, actually, do you know what? This really resonates. I think I need this. I need this, me. But I think I need this in order to be the best I can be with no pencil required, taking it forward. And if I really am serious about changing the face of how people interact with children and understanding where they're going, especially with things as hard as they are, then I need to, at the same time as I want to support teachers, that has to come from the top. So if I can come in with some almost like not credibility, but there is a bit of that, I have to say, because I think people need to see that it's, that you're worth investing in, especially if, they're at the top and budgets are so tight, but also recognizing that I want to be able to present it in the best way so that they really are, they're not judged, and it is an empathic thing, and that they can relate to that and they can see where I'm coming from and sort of get on board, in the sense that I'm there to help, not to judge. there to help make things better. So I thought this course would be a great way to do that. Yeah.
Brilliant. It sounds fascinating. And how long does it take? Where
A
are you at with
year.
it? Okay.
It's a year. So it started last week.
All right.
Yeah, so it goes through, we've got 7 modules, which will then be ICF and CPD accredited. And then the final modules, it all gets taken to CMI. Everything gets taken to CMI. There's an exam at the end, and then it's a pass or fail. So, which is the final sort of few modules. But so it's pretty intense. But at the same time, I'm a bit of a nerd, so it suits me.
Perfect.
I get a lot of pleasure.
I imagine there'll be a lot of personal growth within that as well.
Yes. So. Yeah, which is what I'm quite excited about, to be honest, because and I think that's going to help me be able to better deliver. And yeah, I think it'd be great. Yeah.
How do you feel about your children's journey with you as a mother not being as informed as you are today?
Wow, that's massive, because when my especially my youngest daughter now, if I say stuff that she goes, all right, I don't need a therapy lesson, I'm fine. That's what she tells me. So it's like, oh, okay, you're all right. But the older girls as well, because I was, a young mum. I came from impoverished background, that like breeds like, and how you sort of are brought up is how you parent, and not recognizing all of those things. And then relationships as well, knowing that they have an impact. So you talk about trauma informed, not realize actually the extent of trauma that I had experienced and how that had actually impacted on me and my ability to be a mum in the way that I, not all the time, I've got a great relationship with my girls, but at times I know that they weren't. So there has been a point in our journey when I turned around and said, look, we know that we've had sort of tumultuous journeys at times as well. And some of that is just sort of, I think, is what we could maybe we couldn't class it the norm, but it's sort of typical stuff. Yeah. So you can't beat yourself up over everything. Yeah. But again, there are points when I turn around and said, look, if there's anything that you feel I need to apologize to you for, you just let me know what it is, and I'll own it, and I'll tell you until you can tell me. There's no, I'm not going to deny it. If it happened for you, it happened for you. So let's just go through that. So both girls have had that, and they've both said thank you, and they haven't come back to me. But it's not to say that they won't. I just want them to know that actually, if there's something they've gone, do you know what, Mum, this really sucked. This was really hard, and you were like blah blah blah, or you were a banshee or whatever. I can own it, and I can feel. Yeah, but no, it's not without being upset about it. Do you know what I mean? It's in the sense of like, I'm not going to get offended or, what kind of mother do you think I am? It's none of that. It's because it's not about me. It's about them. So we've got there. And I'm sure as we go through, there'll be more stuff that comes up and sort of will help me explain the journey to them as well. So we just see how that bit goes, I think. But I mean, I'm really lucky. They're 3 girls. They're fantastic girls. We really get on incredibly well. They get on incredibly well together.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's very important, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And so do you, I don't know, I've got a theory about why children are now why there's more trauma, or appears to me more trauma, or more neurodiversity. Well, there's an appearance to be more neurodiversity, but I wondered if you had a theory or an idea, or why it is that there appears to be more stuff going on that perhaps we didn't have when we were growing up.
Yeah, I think there's several things that impact on this. I think that we are more insular. I don't think we are so much of a collective anymore. So I think families really are doing things on their own. I think families are incredibly busy, and you have to do what suits you in the moment for, and if that means there's more screen time because you've got things to get on with, then parents are going to go with the easy option, because life is flipping hard right now. It's really, really hard, and that can have an impact. And I do believe screen time does have an impact. It certainly has an impact on a child's ability to like impulse control. They don't know how to wait. So all these children that feel that they've got to push and grab and all the rest of it is actually not necessarily because there's anything wrong with them. It's just because there's such instant dopamine fixes from screens. Right. And some of them are just like Skittles for the brain, right. Especially with really young children. They don't advise them at all because it just changes the wiring of the brain. So there is an actual physical their responses when they go into settings for nurseries for the first time, they really struggle because they have to wait and they can't have everything they want, and they haven't got that screen, which is why it's so addictive, why children want them so much. They have to have that break away from that. So you've got, and that in itself is like, when you take them away from something that they use a lot, and then they can't have it, there's no access to it, that is a bit of a trauma response for someone who's so little with no life experience. Trauma doesn't have to be, it is big monumental things, but it doesn't have to be. It can be the softer stuff as well, in the sense, I don't mean softer stuff, and I mean it's not less, doesn't have an impact, but it doesn't have to be a neglect or an abuse type thing. It can be things like not having your screen time and then going into a room with strangers. It's how do they cope with that, especially if they've been in situations maybe when they've just been inside families and they've not really had much interaction with others. They haven't been anywhere, they haven't been to group settings before. So those sorts of things can have a part to play. And it's understanding what impact that is, or how that might present, rather than just assuming that the child is on a spectrum. And I'm not taking away, my grandson's autistic, so I'm not taking away from any child who's on the spectrum, but certainly children, the label of ADHD, sometimes there's no trauma diagnosis with regards to ADHD. You see the behaviour, but a lot of behaviours that come from trauma are actually displayed like ADHD. So where you can have children who genuinely do, it's without really delving deep and getting to know what's going on, what the family dynamics are like. I mean, there's so many things that you'd have to unpick. Then that's when I think that the danger is you could get children who are labelled who actually don't need that type of support. They just need to be understood a bit better and their families supported a bit better. And I think that has a big part to play as well. Not to say that there isn't children with ADHD, or now when you see adults as well who are being diagnosed with ADHD later on in life, because everything then makes sense in their life. But it is making sure that you understand, like it's more than just the behavior that presents. There's a lot more to it than that, and it's differentiating between the two and knowing what to do when you see it.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, I agree with you, and but also I do think that it's a new age. So I think that going through the Victorian age, people weren't supposed to be, children were seen and not heard, and it was actually quite abusive, in those days. They were hit and beaten and whatever. And that was the norm, to be that way. And so we're coming into a new dawn of understanding emotions, and in order to really get to be connected with how we feel and to allow for feelings to be present, that means that you have to have that sort of friction to start with to get that. So unfortunately, this generation of kids are having this friction of really beginning to, so that they can understand what their feelings are. I think that's my sense of it as well, from a sort of wider perspective in a way.
I think so. And I think as well with social media, more parents are aware of things and more conscious of things, which is social media is wonderful, isn't it? At the same time, it's a double-edged sword. So where you can have this real awareness, where you can have an awareness of getting ADHD support and symptoms and things like that, so you could correlate that and you think that's quite true. Similarly, you can have it where you can get parents who want to be more gentle parenting and more conscious parenting, but actually not fully understanding what that means. And then you get this almost like lackadaisical approach where the child doesn't get any boundaries, which doesn't promote connection and safety, and that can impact on behavior sort of the adverse way. So it's really difficult. So it's a bit like when I started out trying to make a sense of what I'd seen in that PE lesson, finding my way through and fudging through all the stuff and making a bit of a hash of it, because I was trying to make sense of it all, because there's so much there. I'll do a bit of this and I'll do a bit of that, but actually doing little bits don't actually make much of a difference. But having awareness is fantastic, but it's how you then move forward with that awareness and how you can make sense of that properly, so you get a true picture of what's going on with regards to what's going on around you. And not only that, children are in school, children are meant to move, that when the brain and the body connect is through movement. That's how the actual learning really happens. It has to be a tangible experience. So if you've got little tiny tackers who are exposed to sit, to do stuff, they can't concentrate because it goes against everything that their bodies are innately trying to tell them what to do. So, you get this already, you've got this little child who's in knots trying to be good because they don't want to get into trouble, but actually it's physically impossible for them to sit still because they need to move in order to be able to do it. And then, you've got teachers who have got targets to hit and lessons to do, and, they don't want them to be disruptive, but it's recognizing actually, kids need to move. That's how you get it all to gel together. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's fascinating. And I wondered if there was anything that you would like to add to all of that.
I don't know. I go on a bit of a soapbox. I'm just very passionate about it.
Which
And
is
I think
great.
I think if the biggest thing is just looking at whatever a child gives you, however they present to you, there's always a reason behind it. We hear the thing, behaviour is communication, but it's understanding what it is they're trying to communicate. And then the biggest thing I think is sometimes as well, one thing I wish I'd known years and years ago, it's also when you are so busy and you're so fraught and your child is presenting with big baffling behaviors, you don't quite know what's going on, and you can feel that trigger inside you can feel it welling up. It's just grounding yourself. And one thing I share with all my groups, and that's one of my courses, is called the Conscious Practitioner, because I think we have very child-centered approaches within education, early years particularly, not so much other, but it should come sort of from the child. But I think actually the teachers need to come first, because that analogy of you can't pour for an empty cup is so true. And we find now that, more and more people are being depleted, parents as well are being depleted, and then they haven't got it to give. So you have to recognize yourself in the role that you're playing with regards to your own children or any children that you look after. That's really, really important. And this is probably the 6th time I've shared this since I heard it. And it's probably been around for ages. You probably heard it loads anyway. But it's that analogy of you can't pour from an empty cup. But it was somebody that said, if you put the cup in a saucer and then you fill the cup, and the spill, is what you give. So your cup is never empty. You give from the overspill. And I just thought, flipping heck, I've shared every time I chance to say it. So actually, I think that's really true. I really do believe that, the teachers come first, the parents come first. And that's not from a selfish perspective, but it is a self-care, because if you don't have it, you can't give it. And then you end up feeling like rubbish. And then it starts this cycle of shame, and nobody needs that, and you just need to be in a position that you are able to give the best of you without taken away from you. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah. Put yourself first.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great advice that we all need to take, and probably don't take quite enough.
It's not easy, is it? Because we want to be there for others, and we want to look after everybody. And that's just who we are as humans. But it doesn't serve us to do that in that way.
That's a great advice, particularly for National Stress Awareness Day.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you very much for coming along today to have a chat. It's been a pleasure, and I'm really enthused and excited by what you're doing, and I know it's just going to thrive and grow. And because of your enthusiasm and your passion, it can only succeed, really. So thank you for coming along and chatting today.
I really appreciate it today. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome.